I did my presentation on Yayoi Kusama. Kusama is a Japanese contemporary artist who was born in 1929 in Japan. She's a multidisciplinary artist who primarily works in sculpture and installation, but she also explores painting, performance, film, fashion, poetry, fiction, and other arts. She explores themes of obliteration, infinity, and eternity. She has little formal training, and she studied at the Kyoto City Specialist School of Art from 1948 to 1949. Her work is displayed in museums internationally. Kusama had a traumatic childhood. Her parents had an unhealthy marriage, her mom was against her doing art, and she grew up in the time of World War II. Her family managed plant nurseries and seed farms, so she often drew flowers in a sketchbook, and one day while drawing, the flowers started talking and crowding in on her. She quotes, "I had only thought that humans could speak, so I was surprised the violets were using words. I was so terrified my legs began shaking." This was the first of many hallucinations Kusama experiences throughout her life. The first time she ever saw a pumpkin was with her grandfather. It started speaking to her and became the size of a man's head. She then went home, painted it, and won her first prize at 11. She commonly hallucinated dots as well. One day while she was sitting by a nearby river bend, the white stones that were there appeared as dots covering the world. She quotes, "Whenever things like this happen, I would run back home and draw what I had seen in my sketchbook. Recording them helped me ease the shock and fear of the episode." Her hallucinations became a motif of her work. Because of the war, she craved personal and creative freedom. She started to produce over 70 watercolor paintings a day. However, her mom would often destroy her work and throw out all of her supplies. In 1957, she finally had enough and decided to move to New York City with no money. The only thing she brought was 60 kimonos to sell to make a living. She was really struggling. In 1960, Kusama had a breakthrough in her work. She created the Infinity Net series. This series was composed of large canvases with thick impasto paint to represent a net pattern. It represents dots in a visual way to show how patterns repeat in her hallucinations. These infinity nets ended up leading to the creation of the Infinity Mirror Rooms in 1965. Her first Infinity Mirror Room was the Phallies Room. Phallic translates to penis. She was inspired by her disgust towards men and sex, which derives from her parents' unhealthy relationship. This work helped her heal. This room is filled with thousands of tentacle-like soft sculpture pieces she sewed from 1962 to 1964. The room has mirrors for walls, allowing her to transcend from physical limitations, creating the illusion of infinity. In 1960s, when the pop art became to flourish, Kusama lost herself. Many of her ideas were being appropriated by men, such as Klaus Odenberg, who adopted her soft sculpture, and Andy Warhol's repetitive prints. This made the men famous, but not her. She then overworked herself to hospitalization and grew frustrated and actually attempted suicide. At the 1966 Venice Biennial, she set up the Narcissus Garden. This is a collection of 1,500 reflective balls in a lake. People would grab the orbs and see their face in infinity. She sold each ball for $2 with a sign that said, "Your narcissism for sale." The whole idea comes back to the obsession we have with ourselves and our image. This foreshadows selfie culture, which I'll be discussing later. During the prime of hippie culture in 1965, there were often large parties that Kusama attended, and she started to paint the partygoers in polka dots. Expanding more into performance art, she staged a protest against Richard Nixon and the Vietnam War. When this era came to an end, she felt like an outcast in New York. She ended up moving back to Japan in 1963. Her hallucinations and panic attacks increased, and she was hospitalized many times. In 1977, she voluntarily admitted herself to a psychiatric hospital. However, Kusama doesn't view it as a bad thing. She sees it as a new start. She quotes, "I decided that all I could do was express my thoughts through my art and that I would continue this until I died, even if no one was to see my work." So one of the common themes in her work is the pumpkin. Her pumpkins connect back to childhood. She has paintings of pumpkins, large installation sculptures, and an infinity room filled with pumpkins. She quotes, "I would confront the spirit of a pumpkin, forgetting everything else and concentrating my mind entirely on the form before me." On August 10th of this year, one of her pumpkin installations in Japan from 1994 was destroyed by a typhoon. Coming back to the Infinity Mirror Room series, she was again inspired by her hallucinations, creating these captivating environments with LED lights and other forms reflecting into mirrors. This creates an immersive experience, feeling like you are in endless space. Not knowing where the room begins or ends gives off the illusion of infinity. So Kusama continues to create these infinity mirrored rooms. She starts off with this endless love show and then moves on to Love Forever, which she recreated in 1994 based off her original 1966 one. And then she moves on to her Dots Obsession, Love Transformed into Dots. And then you can see here, she moves on to the Aftermath of Obliteration of Eternity in 2009. In 2013, she created The Souls of Millions of Light Years Away and Love is Calling. And in 2016, she created All the Eternal Love I Have for the Pumpkins. And in 2018, she created My Heart is Dancing into the Universe. She experienced a resurgence of her work in the late 2000s due to the rise of smartphones and selfie culture and the Instagrammable nature of her art. People are obsessed with taking selfies in the Infinity Mirror Rooms using the hashtag #InfiniteKusama. As the number of visitors increase to view these installations, the time slots given decrease. So in New York, they were given 45 seconds, and in DC, 30 seconds. She became a sensation among critics and social media. Critics were getting upset because Kusama allowed just enough time for people to take selfies. One critic claims that it is not art and it is as artistic as a lava lamp. I don't think it's fair to criticize Kusama, who's doing these installations long before social media. The negative attention should be drawn to the viewers who are only going to her exhibit to take selfies. Kusama is now 92 and still living in the same psychiatric hospital in Japan. She has her own 5-story gallery in Tokyo, and she works in her studio 6 days a week. She has little interest in her wealth that came on in her later life, and she does not plan any of her work. She just uses her hallucinations as inspiration. She does not take breaks from creating art. She works from the time she arrives to her studio to dinner. Her most recent exhibition is Cosmic Nature's outdoor installation at the New York Botanical Gardens. This is on display from April 10th to October 31st of this year. She produced many outdoor installations, including floral sculptures, a small infinity room, and organic forms. This all ties back to her childhood in greenhouses and fields and explores her fascination in the natural world. I have a video of the exhibition.
皆さん、私は長い年月、14年間、私は感謝を持って自分の人生を作り上げてありました。そしてまた、その芸術の力を持って、私の今日の人間性、そして私の未来への最大の美しさの根性を作り上げるために、この年まで戦ってまいりました。
So in conclusion, I truly respect Kusama in using her art as a coping skill, in translating her hallucinations into her career and creating these immersive experiences to provide viewers with an alternate reality. And here's my works cited. I did my presentation on Yayoi.